Life is a song. And what if your faith could help you hit the high notes? Grammy-nominated and Dove Award-winning artist Torrin Wells invites you into The High Note.
It's The High Note.
A podcast about real life, real struggles, and a real God who meets you right where you are. With honesty, insight, and encouragement, Torrin tackles the issues you're facing every day and helps you rise above the noise. If you're ready for a fresh perspective on your faith, tune in to The High Note podcast with Torrin Wells.
Welcome to The High Note.
Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. I'm thrilled you can join me today. We are going to be talking with author Sonya Jury, who wrote the book, Mom Forgot My Birthday, and she says it's a how not to guide for caregivers. I always like to encourage people to go to alzheimerspeaks.com, check out all of our free educational resources, as well as our sister company, Dementia Map. And last, I just want to give a plug for Q for Good. They are my webmasters, and I adore them. And I know a lot of people struggle with webmasters. They're very smart. They know what they're doing. They keep to their timelines, and they communicate wonderfully. So, with no further ado, let's go introduce you to Sonya. Well, Sonya, I'm so excited to have you with us today and to be able to talk about your journey, because your journey is different than my journey, is different than so many people, listening and watching today. And I think it's important for people to understand that at its core. Everybody's life is a little bit different. All of our personalities are different. So we're going to mesh in a different light. That's just kind of common sense. But I think sometimes common sense can go out the window when you're in a panic mode, taking care of people and thinking that you have to be perfect and stepping up. So I'm going to have you start, if you don't mind, by just sharing, who is Sonya? How did you get into this space?
Great question. So thank you for that. Well, my name is Sonya Jury, and I am author of a book called Mom Forgot My Birthday that I wrote a couple of years ago. And my mom was diagnosed Mother's Day weekend of 2012. The doctor used the catch-all of dementia and didn't know what that really meant and what it meant for her, what it meant for her husband, what it meant for me, the family, so on and so forth. And then, that was just the start of her journey towards Alzheimer's. And I live in Kansas City, and she lived about 30 minutes away from me, 30 to 45. And, it was just understanding what that meant. And here's the journey. So obviously, Mother's Day weekend, where we are on the calendar right now, is coming up this weekend. So May, end of April, May is always a kind of bittersweet, if that makes sense, of just remembering, the timeline of what has transpired for my mom, for me, and the journey, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to ask it that. That's got to give you a couple of pings and pangs for sure.
Yeah, it does. And as a matter of fact, I did a book talk last week, at two different assisted living facilities. And Thursday night was the anniversary of my mom passing. And then today, which is Cinco de Mayo in this world, is when we had her funeral. So it's just been a lot of memories and going through. And I actually looked at photos and, how you gather the photos for the funeral and all of that fun stuff. You get that. So it's just a little bit bittersweet right now. So this is really quite touching and perfect to have this moment to share this with you and your audience, Lori.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, well, boy, she went out with a bang on Cinco de Mayo. That
Yes, she did.
well, that's fun. It's always it's nice to celebrate life. One of the things I always like to start with is the title of your book. How did you pick that, and why was that important for you?
Thank you. Mom forgot my birthday. She did. May 28th is my birthday, and I could always count on going to the mailbox and getting the Hallmark card with all the stickers on it, the I love you, the various colored markers, and just all of the love and care and energy that I knew that she took time into putting that together and dropping it off, making sure I'd get it in plenty of time for my birthday. And as I said, she was diagnosed of Mother's Day, May of 2012. And that month, there was no birthday card. There was no phone call. And she called the day after to have a conversation about the dementia diagnosis that had happened 3 weeks earlier, and to say, well, you would be really surprised and proud of me. I'm getting 100% better. I'm doing really well. And again, okay, Mom, that's fantastic, great, love it. And I just remember hanging up, and I looked at my husband and I said, she forgot my birthday. And he goes, wow. And I said, I know. And so that was really that was the arrow through the heart, I guess, if you will, the smack upside the face, the Mack truck that hit you. Wow, this is a thing. Don't know what it means. I still don't understand it, because in 2012, there wasn't enough information. And here we are in 2026, and it's amazing how, 13 years, the difference between then and now of the talking, like people were having this conversation that it didn't exist back then. So that was my reason for picking up and saying that's going to be the title of the book. And I'm really glad that I did it because it really resonates with a lot of people.
Well, and I like how you refer to it as a caregiver's guide of how not to do things, because boy, we do not know what we're doing, and the guilt that we feel, and trying to reframe it and grow into the position, at all. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And so many people get so offended, and you might have been too originally when your mom forgot your birthday. That's the first place people go versus is there something wrong? It's usually like, oh, did I do something wrong? A lot of times, or when a name isn't remembered, and it really has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with things are not clicking the way they used to. And when you've got a person who does it every year, and it's just this expectation, then it's a super big shock when that happens.
Yes, and there's a whole lot of denial when that is first diagnosed, not only for the caregiver, but then the loved one, because they sometimes don't understand it. And it's just, it's a really hard, like any diagnosis, any tough diagnosis. It's just a hard thing to accept. And okay, what does that mean? Is there a cure? Is there a way to slow it down? And then, of course, people start thinking about, well, how much time do I have left? And then there's the whole quality of life. But yeah, it's a lot. It really is a lot.
Well, in the support, I know when my mom she was misdiagnosed for 10 years,
Right.
and she lived 30. She's been gone over 10 years now. So 40 years ago, things were really different, and they've improved, like you've said, but we've just scratched the surface in terms of getting people connected to services, products, and tools, getting doctors to really even understand what this disease is about beyond theory and medical
Yeah.
model.
Yeah. And I mean, I specifically remember when the diagnosis was, when her doctor said what he did. And after I walked out of the room, and I just looked at him, I said, I don't even know what this means. And he said, well, here's the book. What is it? The 36-hour day. And he said, you need to read this. Walt needs to read this. And then, we can kind of understand it. And, I just remember sitting in the hospital room with Walter and I said, do you understand what this means? And he's like, oh, yeah, yeah. I'm like, no, I mean, really. I'm like, I'm not trying to pick on you. Do you really comprehend what this means? And then I said, Walt, you are now going to be the caregiver. I said, she's not going to be cooking. She won't be cleaning, which she really hadn't been doing anyway. And I said, and we got to make sure she's taking her medicines on time. I said, it's going to be a lot for you. Oh, I've got this. I can take care of this. I said, well, I know you're proud, but please don't do this. Allow me to come help. Let's find respite care for you. He wanted no part of it. And that was but I had to respect them, Lori. I had to respect it was their life, their boundary, and I could only look from afar and be there as needed, if that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. My my dad, before the diagnosis, because again, she was living with it for 10 years and just being told it was menopause. And she'd say, this ain't my girlfriend's menopause.
Right.
Talk about it. It's different. But my dad couldn't even literally boil water. And now he's making meals, he's cooking, he's trying to clean, he's grocery shopping, he's doing the laundry. And he really wasn't telling us all of these things.
Yeah.
Because in his day and age, the vows were very strict. This is what you do, for the person you love. And, there's just no question that was going to happen. But then there came a breaking point for him, which maybe there was for Walter, your mom's husband. But how did that go? How did he really adjust to being the primary caregiver?
I don't know, honestly, Lori, that he truly ever adjusted. So May was when she was diagnosed, and October, like 10th or 12th, I got the phone call that he was in the hospital, had bacterial pneumonia, and I was on vacation. I came home, drove down to the hospital, and the next day he was moved to Kansas City to a different hospital. Come to find out, he was getting sicker and he was going to be placed on oxygen. They were going to have to intubate him, and that really wasn't discussed. And then he was intubated. That's what I'm saying. He just did what he had to do, but he and I never really had a conversation about caregiving. He just did what he did. And then he wore himself out and got sick and died. That's the short answer.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
And it's not an uncommon one either.
No, it's not. And what really sucks in their story is that my mom had two back-to-back seizures. One was they were like 5 days apart. And the second seizure really affected her mentally. And she was in ICU rehabbing when he died. So she wasn't even at his bedside to say goodbye. And I had to wait for her to get out of the hospital and regain consciousness and cognitive status of a certain level to comprehend that we were going to have a funeral and she was going to bury him. I mean, those 3 weeks were, I felt like I was living in a, Lifetime movie of some sort, because it just every day something terrible was happening or was,
Wow.
yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot to be able to deal with. I know for my parents, my dad had cancer, and for one reason, he took the steps down instead of the elevator, and he tumbled down 2 flights of steps and then landed in the hospital, then could never live home. And the plan was always for my mom to live with us.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
And about 2 weeks in, she woke up. Mel is a woman who couldn't tell you if she should wear snow boots or flip-flops looking out the window.
Sure.
Had this clarity moment and said, I want to move into the nursing home with Dad.
Wow.
And
That's sweet, though.
And of course, I took offense. Don't you like it here? You know, I made it about me at first, you know. And she goes, oh, no, honey, I love it here. But she said, and this just still to this day blows me away, we've been together 49 and a half years. I'm not leaving him now. And so the answer at the nursing home was, well, we'll move your dad's roommate out. She can move in with him. And I said, absolutely not. She needs to be in a high functioning area. Even though she's got dementia, she's really social.
Yes.
She has to have one meal and one activity every day on that unit. And then I had, you know, the job flexibility with my team to just be up there with her all the time because she couldn't maneuver to another floor. So when Dad died, and she didn't really understand it all, she knew she wanted to be with him. But when he died, she was so in old mom mode at the funeral, taking care of everyone. Oh, sweetie, how you doing? And right up there. And I mean, and people were like, well, she doesn't have dementia. That's Dorothy. And I'm like, oh no, she does not know. She does not really recognize that that's her husband per se in that casket, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And isn't it amazing how they can choose to rise to an occasion? And when we would go and take her to lunch or go do something, I was always, okay, which mom is going to show up? Is it going to be social mom or angry mom? Because they were two completely different human beings. And most of the time she was social mom. Or then she would be sad mom. Yeah, Lori, I get it. It's just so interesting, our human mind. And I just am so grateful that research has advanced so much today that, now there's a blood test that people can take. And that is going to be fantastic. And you probably know that there's a Alzheimer's Screening and Prevention Act that is in Congress that we're trying to help get passed so that this Alzheimer's screening test can just be like you and I going to get our mammography or, skin cancer, our yearly exam. Because as you know, with your story with your mom, the diagnosis, if you can get the diagnosis early, then there's something to do to slow it down. But once you hit a certain point, the drugs don't work. And you and I both know that you're not going to cure them. Not yet. There's not a cure yet, but eventually, fingers crossed, there will be.
Yeah, I hope so. I think part of the screening, though, they need to make sure the staff know what they're doing.
Yes.
I just had a loved one go through the clock test, and I just about jumped over the desk and choked her because she gave her the round circle and said, fill in your numbers and then, make your arms to show this time. And so she put her numbers perfectly around in the circle,
Sure.
and her long and short arrows were really close together. And the
Okay.
woman reached across and erased it. Goes, oh, why don't you try that again? And then she did it a second time, and Maureen looked at me and said, am I not understanding what I'm supposed to do? And I said, honey, you're doing fine. I said, you just go ahead and try it again. So she did it again, and she was going to do it a third time. And I said, that is her answer, and it's perfect. We do not need to do that. And I just let the doctor have it. I said, do not allow someone to give this test who doesn't know what they're doing.
Right. Right.
Because that was humiliating to her. And that was a minor test compared to like the half day test.
Yes.
And so people really have to understand the purpose behind the test as well, with those types of things, or just even the staff allowing family to come back. I had that stopped one time. No, she's fine on her own. And I'm like, well, no, we always come back. And I was waiting for her husband, who was a little bit slower, to get in the back, and we were blocked. We could not go into the appointment. I thought they're not going to get one realistic answer.
Right.
Because she's in control of everything. And I was really upset with that when I talked with the doctor. I said, two things are going to happen. She's either going to be so mad because she was so worked up by the time she got in there that she's
Right.
not going to get in the car with us to go home, or you better hope by the time she's through with her blood test, because they sent her down to the lab alone too for that. And or she's going to forget it and she'll be fine. And you better hope for the later.
Right. Right. It's there's what I found interesting. I do a lot of traveling, and I was at I want to say the Nashville airport. No, it wasn't that. It was another airport. And there are certain airports now that are getting trained, and they're training their staff on dementia for dementia travelers.
Yep.
And I thought that was really great, that they need a little extra time. They get, you can't rush them. You've got to settle so that they don't get agitated. And I thought that was a really great thing that is now happening. It's a movement, I guess, that's happening. But you're right, Lori, people don't know these things. And, I think about our civil servants, our police and fire department. How we put the little stickers on our homes for cats and dogs, living in the house. Do we need to start doing that for those that are aging that have cognitive decline? Do we need to start letting people know that there is someone in this house, especially if they're still living by themselves, that has mild cognitive decline, and they could use some help if something were to happen? So I don't know. It's just there's going to be a lot of training that needs to take place in education, and you know that you live in this world.
Yeah, the airport thing actually started it started overseas, and I had hooked up our dementia-friendly community in Roseville, and then they really jumped in, and the university got involved, and then TIPA got involved doing the training videos and stuff, and the sunflower lanyards, if people aren't aware of those are the invisible disabilities cards that people can wear or have in their wallet that are really, really helpful. And there's so much we can do when we all work together. It's just pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But the stickers, the thing that I worry about, because I know people have talked about that for a long time, is there seems to be so many people looking to scam our elders. Does that make them a target? Which is really sad that we can't be honest anymore.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
But that's what I worry about for them. So, but one of the things people can do that a lot of people don't know, you can call 911 non-emergency.
Sure.
And let them know that a person with dementia lives in the house, give them their traits, their nicknames. When they leave the house, if they go on their own, they usually turn right or left, who their emergency contacts are, if they have any particular reactions. People call them behaviors. I don't like to call them that, to different things, so that police can be and EMTs can be a little bit more informed of what they're walking into.
I didn't know that you could do that. That's fantastic.
I didn't either until our Roseville group. We had a panel with the police, and then she goes, "Oh yeah, all the police departments are willing to do that. I mean, if we're really busy, we might have to have you call back, but you just call the non-emergency line," and we find that stuff really helpful.
Wow. That is great. I'm going to make it to do to call my local police and ask them if
Mhm.
that is a thing, because I have a lot of, my parents are both deceased, but I have a lot of friends that, their parents are now
Yep.
on the journey, if you will. And that would be I think it would be a
Kind of a
comforting,
relief. Yeah.
yeah, a relief and comfort to know that. Okay,
Yeah.
good to
Well,
know.
and if they say no, you can always talk to the supervisor and have more people call in that this is a real need. But I know here in Roseville, Minnesota, excuse me, um, they started having fire go out and visit people and do wellness checks and stuff, even really working together with police and fire.
That's really fantastic. Thank you. That's lovely. Yeah.
So I want to get back to your how not to do things guide. Can you give us a couple of examples? Because I mean, we all have them. If we're honest, I mean, we've all had them, and we can hopefully laugh at them now,
Yeah.
and have learned something through that.
So, one of my favorite ones to share is that my mom and her husband Walt, they did not have a durable power of attorney. They didn't have a will. They hadn't done any of that. And then as I started going through all their papers, trying to find anything that was like that, I still remember this. I'm sitting on the sofa, and I'm flipping through papers, and I opened this folder and I went, oh my God. They had signed a durable power of attorney through the VA. It was like a one pager. I don't even know that it was legal, I'm going to be honest. But they had given power of attorney only to each other. They had not put anybody else's name down. So when you do this, when you create a will and power of attorney, don't give it to your significant other. You must give it, you must do a number two or a number three in line, because sure enough, something's going to happen where they're both going to be, incapacitated, and somebody else is going to have to make decisions. So that was my aha. And making sure that when you have all your wills, that and that you have copies of them and people know where the copies are. Maybe you even give one to your attorney. Well, your attorney would have one, but to your physician. Are you at a point where you're willing to share that information with the physician so that they have it on file and on record? And so it's just, you know, that more than anything really so frustrated me. Have the conversation with your loved ones of what quality of life means for you. And don't wait till they're in the hospital. Have that conversation. Have it over Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. You're sitting on the back porch with your loved one, just in the car ride, going someplace. Have the conversation. What does quality of life look like for them? And all that's going to do is make it easier if you have to make life decisions for them so that you understand their wants and what they want and what they don't want.
Yeah, I think both of those are really good. It's very common to be short-sighted on those power of attorney because everyone's thinking they're never going to die. So if I have to do it, okay, I'll list you because, you're not going anywhere and you're
Right.
healthy today. And, again, we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow. We don't know. And And then that quality of life conversation. I don't know why we're so scared about that. I don't understand that. I just, but again, I know I'm not going to live forever. I don't want to live forever. I mean,
Right.
I'm just not one of those people that feels like I have to live forever and ever. And so maybe it's because I have a realistic view of that, but I would want my favorite things around me or my favorite music. And
Right.
I think we just really have to start having these conversations personally. I think when we're 18, I think when kids graduate, the first gift they should get instead of a car is a healthcare power, a healthcare directives and a power of attorney. And if you want to do a simple will for them, go ahead and do that. But these situations happen at all ages. And it seems like we wait until there's a chronic illness.
Right.
And then it turns into end of life instead of living what I call smart living.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Right. Design your life. You get to decide what you do with this one big, beautiful life, how you're going to put a dent into the universe. And you're absolutely right. I know what I want. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. My husband and I have talked about it. Our niece and nephew are our executors. They know what we want, what we don't want. And even my girlfriends know what I want and what I don't want. I am not bashful at all about talking to it. And then there are sometimes I look at him like, am I being a little too morbid? They're like, nope, we know that's you and we know what you've been through. So just keep telling us so that we remember and that kind of thing. It's really, really hard. And Lori, the whole shame and guilt that we go through. Am I making the right decision? And I'm not making the right decision. It's just really so hard. And the guilt that you get from others, when everything was happening with my mother and my husband and I had already made the decision that we could not bring her home to live with us.
Mm-hmm.
That was not going to happen. We had other friends and family members that had done that, and we saw the strain that it put on their relationship, and neither one of us had truly the patience. I'm just going to be blunt. We didn't have the patience to do it. And I just remember the guilt that her friends, what do you mean she's not going to come live with you? Kind of like, how dare you? And I just looked at them and I said, do you want her to come live with you? And they would just look at me, well, she's not my mother. And I said, I realize that. You don't get to judge me. I got really bold in saying that to other people, and I did not have any guilt in saying that. It is not you to judge what I am doing. I know you don't understand it. I don't expect you to understand it. I expect you to respect me and respect her. And if it works for you to go visit her, fantastic. But if you don't go visit her, I'm not going to, no guilt, no judgment. Life goes on. And so for about the first 6 to 8 months, people would visit her on a regular basis. And then as she progressed and they got back to their lives, she didn't have any visitors. So that's when I made the decision that I'm going to move her closer to me. And so that's what I did so that I could see her more.
Yeah, it is hard, that whole judgment thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even people within your family that you would think would understand, but many of them don't even see the symptoms because, like we said earlier, they kind of step in when company comes over, they got something to do, and you can't really tell.
No, because they do. They buck up for the day, I guess is
Mhm.
how I saw it. And I'm very fortunate, Lori. My brother, he lives in Ohio, and he was very, very supportive. He said, "You're the one that's with her. You make the decisions." He said, "I just want to have awareness." And so I would call him and, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do." He goes, "Sounds great to me. What do you need from me?" I'm like, "Just call her. Just call her. Come see her." She was just so lonely. And I'm very grateful that she was a social butterfly because she did make acquaintances. I don't know if they're friends, but she made acquaintances and um, would always be flighting around the facility. And so that was nice. And I know that they found things to occupy her time, if you
Mhm.
will. But she was very mobile. And I think that was really hard for some people because they expected her to sit in a chair.
Yeah, yeah. My
And that
mom
was,
was this, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was going to say my mom was like a social butterfly
Yeah.
too, and many people didn't know that she lived there
Yeah.
because she always still wanted to dress nice, and she'd sit by the door and she'd greet people, and people
Right.
thought she was somebody waiting for somebody, And on a good day she could give directions, and the nurses, I'll never forget, one day said, "How does your mom know everything that's going on around here?" And I just said, first of all, I said, Mom was a great eavesdropper in her day, and she has not lost that skill, and it's interesting on what they remember. I'd love to know the whys behind all of that stuff, but they were just always fascinated at, some of the things she could know, and then some of the simple things that she just absolutely could not do or couldn't remember at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
And it's a very fascinating disease if you're able to detach from it and really look for the joy in things, because something like that just puts a smile on your face, like how can that even happen, or why does that happen? Or even my mom in her later stages, we did some videos of her, and I've
Okay.
walked into conferences where other people have used these videos of my mom, singing along with the music, and the hands and the toes are going, and she's got all her chipped teeth, and she'll wake up and then she kind of falls asleep during the song, and then another portion, pulls her back. And they're just so joyful. And everybody in the room can feel this pure joy out of this person most people would write off and say is just a shell of a body. And it's
Right.
just such a perfect example of how many little moments like that are we missing because we're looking for the wrong things.
We're looking, I'm speaking for myself,
Mhm.
we're looking to how can we fix them and instead of enjoying the moment.
Mhm.
And again, what not to do when I finally made the shift, the mindset shift. I cannot fix her.
Mhm.
I just want her happy and safe. And that was just this huge burden, this weight that just came off. And so happy and safe, be with her when I can, enjoy the moments. We had a lot of nonsensical conversations. She and my husband had a lot of nonsensical conversations. She would ask me, how I'm doing, what I would do, and it was me sharing my life, what was going on with me, and I remember one day I said, Mom, I'm training for a marathon. Do you want to train with me? That sounds okay. Yeah, I would love to do that. And I just busted a gut because it was so cute. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start walking. She's like, okay. I'm like, you want to help up? No, I can get up. And so then we would just start wandering the halls and start walking and talking and everything. And, of course, she would stop and look at something and try and figure out what this was and everything. I was very fortunate, Lori. She never forgot who I was. She always knew me. Was your mom the same?
No, my mom started calling me her mother. which is
Yeah.
a hilarious story because my brother came with me one time to visit her, and as we're walking in, like every time I would walk in, my mom would be kind of sitting with her little clique. And there was one, I call her little bitty, in the corner that just didn't get along with anybody.
Right.
And my mom would go, and there's my mother, and she takes such good care of me. And then this little old bitty would yell out, Dorothy, that's not your mother, that's your daughter. And then my mom would look at her and go, oh, I have Alzheimer's. And then they would all cackle. And this little woman in the corner would just be beet red and just mad. And my brother saw that, and he said, I don't get it. She doesn't know who I am either. She always calls me Chuck. Well, Chuck was her brother.
Yeah.
And I said, Mark, you have to realize she's gone back in time. And so before she had kids, before she was married, and if you look in the mirror, you look like Uncle Chuck when he was your age. And she loved Uncle Chuck, so that's a compliment.
Yeah.
So don't get offended. And he goes, well, what about you? You don't look anything like Grandma. And I said, you're not thinking of Mom's situation. He goes, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, when Mom was 15, her dad had a massive heart attack. And Grandma, the story goes, Grandma had a nervous breakdown, and she left, and she kind of traveled around the world and left my mom home alone. Couldn't get by with that today, but my mom had some resentment, for that, needless to say. And I said, Mark, I just feel honored somehow through our relationship that was healed. I mean, what a blessing that is for her not to feel abandoned by her mother anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And yes, sometimes Mom would call me her mom, like now like mother, and I wouldn't correct her once I realized what was happening. But it was fascinating to watch her go back in time and remember things. And so she and my dad had been divorced for almost 25, 30 years. And she started remembering him and started calling him by name. And I'm like, well, this is weird. Didn't expect this to happen. But, it did. And she always remembered me. She remembered my husband. She loved her music, her country western music. And so we would play that. We would sit when I would visit with her, and we'd sit and listen to whatever the country western station is. But yeah, it's so strange watching someone that is so vibrant going through it. And man, Lori, I only had 5 years with that journey with my mother. You are a saint for the 30 years that you went through it with your mom, and using your history and your knowledge to share and allow people to have a safe space to talk about it and to normalize the journey. That's really important.
You had mentioned, for your mom, you wanted her to be safe and happy. And I always said with my mom, I wanted her to be safe, happy, and pain-free. And if I focused on those things first, then I did my tasks differently. And some of them I didn't even have to do, and I could allow other people in. So I think part of it is our perspective. And then I also kind of reframed things for me, because there would be times where I would grieve this ambiguous loss. One day it hit me really hard. And then I feel like God talked to me, and he said, how lucky are you to hurt this bad because you love so deeply? And that, like, wow, it was like some people never loved this deeply to hurt this bad. And then I became thankful that I had this much time with her, even though it looked different, and that I felt so bad, over this loss. And then it made me look at, all the fear I had of what could happen. Like you said, you were given the 36-hour day, which can be really overwhelming to a lot of people. Say, I have to put it down, because I think when it first came out, people thought everything was going to happen instead of these are just some things that could happen, not everything. Right. And that if I was living in the fear of the future, or I was grieving the past, I was missing the moment in front of me. And then that made me realize the only place I could create joy or identify joy was in the current moment. So I
Exactly.
needed to spend more time there.
Exactly. And when I do have friends that call me and say, well, I have an aunt or I have my dad or someone was just diagnosed, they're like, give me, what should I do? And I said, well, how do you feel about the diagnosis? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I said, have you made the connection that it's the disease that's going to be causing these things to happen? It's not them. And if you can separate, compartmentalize that the disease is causing her or him to do these things or say these things and act this way, not them. And it's not personal, you know what I mean? And that seems to have given them permission to, oh, it's the disease, like your plaque says behind you. See me, not my dementia. Separate the two. That is really powerful, I feel. And I wish somebody would have said that to me. Separate the two.
Yeah. Oh, it's critical because we all have our relationships and we know how certain people can push our buttons and we don't expect that to stop, it's
Right.
And yet our emotions, I think, during a chronic illness typically, go to another level. They don't calm down usually. They just get a little louder.
Right.
So being able to reframe that is really important. I wanted to talk about, because I know in your book, people aren't quite sure what to expect, but you talk about early, stage and middle stage and late stage. Can you give people just some tips on those three?
Sure. I mean, early stage, sure, it can be as simple as where did I leave my keys? Or you go into a room and you stand there and go, what did I come in this room for? Forgetting where you misplace things. Maybe you're having trouble remembering names. And, even myself, Lori, I today I was talking to my husband. I'm like, I can't remember that name. And I look at him and I go, is it a dementia moment? He goes, no. He goes, it's not. He goes, it'll happen. It'll come to you. I'm like, okay. And it's usually if I haven't slept well.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Which I haven't over the last 3 or 4 nights. So that's part of it. So that's a little bit of the early stage thing. More in the middle stage is I found that they get moody. My mom really stopped doing things that she loved to do. And part of that was when I would call and before she was diagnosed, Mom, hey, you want to go meet? I'll meet you at such and such place for lunch. Well, hold on. Let me call Walt. Let me ask Walt if it's okay. I'm like, why are you asking him? You've never asked him this before. And then she got to the point where, no, if we're going to see each other, you need to come pick me up. And she just stopped driving, which this is an independent woman, since she's been 10 or 12 years old, has always worked, has always made money. She learned to drive as soon as she could. all the things. And it was just odd. She stopped gardening. She stopped cooking. She stopped making, my oatmeal raisin cookies. Um, and then, of course, the late stage, she um, just needed round the clock care. Um, she obviously couldn't tell time. I mean, just unfortunately became a shell. And I
Mhm.
don't say that to be diminishing to her, but to me, those were kind of the three stages. And when I was writing my book, I remember going back to the Alzheimer's webpage and just, well, what's on their website now? What's
Mhm.
there that could help people? And they had then created the three stages. And as I sat there and read them, and I went, and that's how I'm going to divide my book up. Because at the time they didn't have those stages.
Mhm.
Now I could see where the stages happened. Um, and Lori, from your mother, it's just it's gradual. There's not that one moment in time, oh, now she's moved to here. But that middle stage, her aggression started happening a bit more. And that was one of the reasons we had to move her from assisted living to a dementia care facility because she started lashing out and hitting people because her agitation had grown. So, that added a drug to calm her
Mhm.
down a bit more. She was still functioning. She should still get up and walk and things of that nature. Her incontinence started during that middle stage.
Mhm.
She just became OCD, obsessive of having to go to the bathroom. It was the strangest thing. Um, so anyway,
She didn't want to
just
have an accident, so she was
mm,
trying to avoid that. And
yeah,
with so many, I think they get the aggression because they are so confused and uncomfortable. They're disoriented, and we're not addressing what's causing that. And sometimes it can just be the environment that they're
yep,
in. It
yep,
could be the lighting, it could be the noise levels. I'll never forget the time my mom, she just she didn't get aggressive, but she just started bawling. And I was cleaning out her closet because it either had to be red or pink to be in her closet. Nothing else did she own. If it just was red or pink. So I'm cleaning out her closet, and she's all of a sudden she's just bawling. And I'm like, Mom, if you've changed your mind, I can put all this stuff back. I'm just here because you asked me to do this. And she couldn't articulate what was going on. And then I
yeah.
looked next to her, and on TV, we were bombing Iraq.
Oh,
And she thought that was happening outside the door. I turned the TV off. Vroom.
yeah,
She calmed right down. But,
yeah.
I didn't know she couldn't differentiate that at that time.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is the last place that my mom was living, it was so interesting that I just remember being on the unit one afternoon, and I looked over at the nurse that was on call, and I said, I don't know what's going on, but everybody seems really agitated today. And she said, they are. And she said, it happens when one person gets that way, the vibe goes through. And I said, have you ever seen the video of um, the, there was a video in China where they were trying to hold baby pandas and take a photo for a Christmas card. There were like 20 baby pandas. And I'm like, they're like the baby pandas. They're just restless. And she goes, oh my God, you're exactly right. And I said, what can we do? And she said, well, why don't we go turn the TV off? That's number one. I'm like, okay, let's do that. I said, how about some just subtle music? She's like, let's do that. And it just did kind of calm everybody down. And you and I both know decluttering their environment, taking things away. I mean, when I would visit my mom, Scott and I had this thing. He'd be like, okay, I'm going to grab her. We're going to come out of her room. I would always walk in with a trash bag, and I would just like, what has she gathered? And I would just open the cabinets and why does she have 20 styrofoam cups? Why does she have this? Why does she have that? And I would just clean out her stuff. And then we would walk away and she wouldn't know any different. But yeah, she would just, and she had a bad habit of taking things apart. And she started taking apart picture frames, and then she would break the glass inadvertently.
Ooh.
So, you just never knew what you were going to find. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. My mom was a little klepto, so she would
Yeah.
take the sugar packets and the jelly packets. If we were at a restaurant or if it was where she was at, boxes of Kleenex, because she remembered she had allergies. And so every box of Kleenex she saw was hers. And so she would grab it. And then the staff said, well, we can't redistribute them. They're hers. So she'd have like 12 boxes of Kleenexes in her room because she would just collect them. And, we couldn't figure that out. We did figure when she lost her purse, I just started buying 3 purses that were the same.
Sure.
So if she lost it, instead of panicking, the nurses knew where the extra one was and the other one would turn up. And then, we always had this backup process and just made it a little bit easier and stuff with that.
I love that, Lori. One of the things I did for my mom, again, to help with agitation, I wrote a note to my mom, and I photocopied a bunch of them, and I asked the nurses to keep it in their stash. And if she got agitated, they were to pull one of those out and take it over and said, "Hey, Sonya brought this for you, or sent this for you, and let's read it together." And it would calm her down. It was just enough to calm her down.
Oh, that's beautiful. Again, it doesn't have to be really big, fancy things that we think of, because we, even when someone is, kind of shadowing someone, caregivers say, "I just want to go to the bathroom alone," kind of like you do with the toddler. Just can I just have a couple of minutes to myself?
Sure.
But what we don't realize is we've become their security blanket. And then, for me, I turn that into, again, how lucky am I to be able to give somebody this much comfort that they don't want me out of their sight. And so when I could look at it as a benefit to her, instead of just bothering me, it was like, okay, so she's going to watch me pee. It's like, that's okay. I can live with that because she's calm. She's safe. She's happy. She's pain-free. But that whole thing, it was like, okay, that isn't a lot to ask of me to give her the calmness,
right?
In the big scheme of things, in my mind, anyways.
Lori, I love that you have that mantra, and I had one similar, and it really does help shift your mind into seeing them through a different lens, taking the patience, having the patience, and being present in the moment. And I know myself, Lori, I look back on it and I'm like, oh, I could have been better. I could have been a better daughter. Yet I know the last 2 weeks of my mom's life, I was there with her, almost 24/7. And I always felt guilty because I would only visit her once a week. And that was more than some of those women on that unit even got.
Probably by far.
Oh, yeah. And I used to feel like I had this huge guilt, like shame on you for not seeing your mother more. And when I realized that others were not having any visitors, my mom's roommate, she had no one that came to visit her. No one. And I just thought, oh, I hope I don't wish that on anybody. That would just be not a quality of life for anyone.
Yeah. I remember at my mom's nursing home, there was one little woman, and she was like 103. Just this short little thing with gray hair and just so spry. You'd never know she's 103. And she would always come and visit, because like you, I'd visit with everybody, when you're there. And one time I don't know, my mom was getting a shower or something, and she comes over and she holds my hand and she says, I just want you to know that you come a lot, but when you're not here, I'm taking care of her. And it just
Oh,
melted my heart. We all watch out for your mom. We're a big family here. And I just thought, oh, it just was so sweet,
yeah,
to know those friendships were there.
right. And I mean, Laura, you know what it's like when you walk into a care facility and you can feel the positive vibe, the love. You can see the staff, they're not stressed out. They're there. They have genuine joy when they look at their patients that they're taking care of. And that's just so important. It doesn't have to be the prettiest facility. It doesn't have to be the newest facility, but make sure that the staff really are trained and that they love what they do.
Yeah.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Yeah.
And that's difficult, even for me, who knows what I'm looking for. Last fall, had a really tough time finding that for our loved one, and found one that we were comfortable with. And then things changed and we ended up waiting till spring. And I went back out there again. And I'm like, what I think is missing most is that teamwork where they like one another.
Yes.
They help one another. And we found a place like that. It was like night and day, just night and day. But getting back to that relationship of where they can laugh and they can hold somebody's hand and they can have fun with their patients and their clients instead of just running from task to task and feeling all stressed, like they're still not doing enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. And oh my gosh, to the extent that I could say please and thank you and look them in the eye or take them gift cards to their favorite, place that they like to go to off hours. I just would do things like that because they were there in the middle of the night when something went down that my mom needed help with, and I just knew that I trusted them.
Yeah.
That is just, it's comforting as the daughter, the other loved one, if you will.
Oh, for sure. We had one gal in Florida when her husband was in a care facility. She would just every week she would write thank you notes to the staff.
Yeah.
And just to know that they're appreciated, because they don't hear that often, and let it get in their file that they're doing a good job, because again, we usually are good at calling people out when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to ask you really quick, since you're part of the board of the Alzheimer's Association,
I am.
Some of their key resources too that people could tap into.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we have the 24/7 helpline, which is so important. And it's staffed by quality social workers. And my dear friend that lives in Omaha, and he knows what I went through with my mom. And he said, I need to talk to somebody other than you. And I said, call them, call the Alzheimer's Association. And he's like, I did. He goes, I spoke to somebody for an hour. They were so helpful. I'm like, yes, I know.
My support groups love the 24-hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Lori, there's just one thing that I do want to share with you and your listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this right now, and I haven't looked at it in a while. So I'm getting a little misty-eyed. And I'm so glad I did this. And I took a photograph of my mom,
Oh.
um, of me holding her hand right after she passed, even before I had gone to go get the nurse.
Mhm.
And I keep this, I have it as a magnet. And I got crafty one afternoon and I made these magnets and I took them over and I left it at the care facility. And I don't know however many I made. And I just said, for all of those that took care of my mom, Willa Dean, I hope you take one because you were very special to her and to me. And just thank you, going back to saying thank you to the caregivers. So this is one thing that I share with my team, my people, my friends. I'm like, take that photograph because it means so much. And when I've had a loved one pass ever since then, if I've been with them, I have done that. And it's one of my favorite treasures to
Mhm.
remember that moment, as odd as that may seem for some people.
No, it's, to me, dementia is here to teach us that the most powerful things in life are really simple.
Yeah, that's
And we
beautiful.
and we seem to overlook them, and I love the picture of the hands. I've got little things that I've done too. Like I said, the video thing. I can have the worst day and I go watch one of those videos and I'm like, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Doing okay. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I did. I joined the Alzheimer's board, the Heart of America chapter, and my sole purpose is to help educate and like you're doing. There's more to it. And I did my first Alzheimer's walk last year, and I met some amazing family members there supporting their loved ones and just hearing the stories. And, that's why you do this. So thank you
Mhm.
to tell the story and allow people to have a voice.
Yeah, it's important to hear those family stories. They have so many great insights, and we all think when we're going through this, I don't know what I'm doing. But we know more than Bob and Sue, and maybe not as much as Joe and Betty, and that's okay. That's life. That has been our life since we were born, and
Yep.
it will be until we die.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
but we have to get people to realize they know a lot more than they think they know, and to I think kind of follow their heart, follow their gut in terms of this person best. What would
Right.
they like? And you're not always going to get it right, or it might work this time and it won't work 15 minutes from now or 2 days. That's just the disease.
It is.
That's how it works. So I want to make sure that we get people to your website and stuff. Do you want to go ahead and give us your website? And
Sure, sure. So you can find my book. So I'm a EOS implementer, and but my website for me is www.businesssherpa.org, and my book is noted on there. You can find it on Amazon. If you're in Kansas City, our local bookstore, Rainy Day Books, has it as well. And I'm just there if I can help anybody, just like you, Lori. So thank you for this.
great. And you're also on LinkedIn, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
am. I
Okay,
am. Yeah.
good. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has just been a wonderful conversation, and I just appreciate the personal stories of your journey and sharing. I know some people have a hard time sharing those things, but they are so powerful to people on this path. So you've given us great tips and a lot of hope,
Yeah.
For living graciously alongside
Yeah.
the journey.
And
Oh,
Lori, I am amazed at all the website resources that you have compiled and pulled together. So thank you, because now I have another resource that I can share with people when I go do my talks. That,
wonderful.
yeah, hey, go look at this. There's a whole bunch of information there.
Well, and feel free to share both Alzheimer's Speaks, our free resources there with our videos of people, talking about dementia that are living with it, and our Dementia in the Arts. Those are, I think, really powerful, as well as Dementia Map, which you are part of now. We
Yes.
want as many companies and individuals that have resources, products, or tools for dementia and caregiving. So don't think just because you're living with dementia or you're caring for somebody that you don't qualify. If you have a YouTube channel, a blog, you've written a book, developed a Facebook page, whatever it might be, you created it because you needed it and you saw the need in others. So please share it with us. You can sign up free, or we've got our paid profiles as well, if that's what you're looking for. But our goal is to connect people to services, products, and tools, and just keep it simple, keep it real, and give people choice. So with that, we're going to close. I always ask our audience to be a giver of hope, like, click, and share. You don't know who's in your sphere of influence that needs these resources. And the more we can push them out, the easier it makes their journey. Some people, might still be in denial and think they don't need it. But again, the more they can get information from trusted sources versus just going to Google makes their life a little easier and makes them realize this is a bigger issue than just them. A lot of people are going through this. So thank you again.
Lori, thank you. I've loved every minute of it. And just thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Same to you, girl. Bye now.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.